Hey everyone, episode 47. I am Dr. Lisa Holland, the hostess with the mostest for owning her health. We continue on from episode 46. So if you did not hear episode 46, I recommend that you go back and you listen to that one first because this is the continuation of that conversation. Not that this one doesn't hold its own, it does. We finish off that conversation about the Mean Girl episode that I had. That triggered my eighth grade goddess in me, my maiden, to come on out again. But we talk a lot about in this episode of where your ownership, who actually the doctor of womanhood I believe is, which is you. Buckle up, listen in, let's go.
Welcome to this episode of Owning Her Health with your host, Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. Join Lisa as she starts the conversation on what it really takes to become a healthy, wealthy, and whole CEO of your life. Listen in to real talk by real lady leaders in all walks of life as they open up on personal health stories, wealth, career, and feminine abundant living. Learn how to grow by owning your body, expanding your mind, and aligning your soul with the purpose only you can pursue in this world. Happiness begins with owning her health right now.
Surprised me. Why were the women, the female OBGYNs, the most difficult crew to convince of any, and was trying to convince them, and I don't try to convince them anymore because there's way enough science, and at this point, it's to me in my head, this is malpractice. If you're not incorporating in this, if you're sticking a 15-year-old on the pill without talking about their lifestyle practices, without looking into their gut and whatever, you're just not reading the research of womanhood. Are you going to give that over to someone with a degree? You know, my whole hashtag Medicine Woman Rising is not just because you have a degree, although my word and my desire in initiating that is to get more women who have some sort of authority or some sort of power at this and at this evolutionary time where so many smart women have lived enough years and have degrees and have power and have some money and have some support in their environment to do these things. Yes, I definitely need them to rise up and demonstrate and make their own podcasts and have their own platform. That's why I do the Mind Body Brand Academy. And I don't need them to be big and rich and busy and all these other things. It's okay to be the mom like me. It's okay to be the woman who wanted to practice between 8 and 2. Who had some support financially so she could do that. And it's okay for me to now advise after some experiences that I was not thinking of and gaining those experiences to now advise people, you've got to bring in more revenue, but it's not necessarily so you buy the boat and the car and you stand in front of it and take an Instagram. It might be because you're reinvesting. Research shows that women who have successfully profitable businesses tend to give back into their communities more, tend to be the medicine not only for themselves to feel good about how they're, having a career they crave and a life they love, but they give that back, that feeling back to their families, to their communities. They initiate more programs, social service programs. And again, this is innate within the feminine model of success and collaboration and community and some of those attributes. So that rise is really to allow us to come more into power, to be not equal, to be allowing the energies around us to neutralize and mold together into something new, into some combined entity that is needed for the task at hand. And so right now, we just don't need to wage war on things as much in healing. We need to understand more. We need to have conversation. We need to not make everything a bot and a robot and diagnose all the time by artificial intelligence. It's called artificial intelligence. You understand? We need communication because ultimately that's what trauma robs us of. An injury, or a dysfunction, a cancer. The malignancy is when the cell has gone rogue and truly does believe that it knows better and it claims it's everything to the detriment of the whole community. we see that in society, right? So if I am somebody who is in a vulnerable position of pain or illness, and I am reading up and I am smart and I am willing to educate myself, and I go to someone and they're not comfortable with being a partner, if they're under the mindset that it's their way or it's non-compliance, then I have a problem truly developing autonomy and taking on the ownership of my life, don't I? I cannot become the CEO of that healing life story if you don't let me, and I also don't feel I have the right to, nor the wisdom to, nor the, ability to learn those skills or to trust the messages that are from within my body, from my experience of my life. When I hand that over to anyone who has gone to school in order to gain some skills that anyone could gain, guys, that's the thing. Anyone who wants it bad enough, who would work hard enough, could be a physician, could be a physical therapist, could be a chiropractor, could be a surgeon. I'm sorry, but to think, now here's the thing. Not everybody will want to be, not everybody will want to go to that type of school. No, not everybody will want to think that way. Not everybody will have the emotional intelligence to, not have to cut off a section of themselves that they really want for working in their home and with their family outside of their work in order to be really great in the surgical room or conferencing about people and having them die around them daily. I get it, but that's the real issue. It's not because people in general are like, as Kelly put in her thing, not an initiate of some sort, that there's these gurus out there that are special. And so their way or the highway, you're special. Everyone's special in the same special way. We have unique abilities. We have strengths. We have weaknesses. We have vulnerabilities. We have compatibilities. We have all of these things. But when like I said, who is, and I want to leave you with that question, who is the doctor of womanhood? The woman living her life. You, listening to this, if you are a woman, have a PhD in your life. What you might need to do is go back to school about your body, about your behaviors, about your motivators, about your financial stability, about the choices that you make, about the people you trust for your education and information. But, getting back into your body is your responsibility. You're meant to be the doctor of womanhood. Now, I can blame certain chemical companies, pharmaceuticals, I can blame certain people in my life who made it difficult for me to truly embrace the positives. But at some point, adulting requires me to own where I am and decide where I'm going. If I have been traumatized and I have a disconnection, as Gabor Mate says, of the self, and I'm chronically in that gap where I'm not on either side, the person I was, nor the person I can be. If I'm in a place where I can't even see that person, the potential other people see, then what I need is life coaching. You understand? What I need is society, my community, having good soil for me to replant my seed as I am, however I am, in an area that has sustainability. I can only do so much. The physical therapies I give, the supplements, the food education, the digestive system education, the yoga breathing practices, the hormone looking and connecting the dots on your functional labs and things like that. There's only so far that can go. If you're like those two women in that medical practice that I went to that day, standing, eating my food, but rolling your eyes and looking at me up and down like I am not worthy. Okay? If you see no value in me, other than the sandwich I bring you, okay? Other than that massage, that momentary quick fix, or, some of these exercises are great while you're with me, but you're not going to do a darn thing on your own. Or maybe you're in a situation where you can't, and I do nothing for that. If there's no value in me to the life you live outside of that treatment room, then there may be people who don't have the self-efficacy, the feeling of a shared power between me. If I don't give them a feeling of a shared power, they may not feel acknowledged. They may not feel heard. They may not have self-agency and self-efficacy enough to even show up, even if I'm making sense, which is why it's very, very, very limited in the amount of access to the education. As a physical therapist, I was trained, and I believe most of my healthcare colleagues are trained to be great educators, to be great teachers, as well as great treaters. But in order to treat things, we need to assume somebody's broken. And in order to educate someone, we have to assume they're ignorant in some way. And unfortunately, this places the dynamic in a difficult place, because now we have insurance, and who's supposed to pay for that, and who's supposed to really be the healer, and who's supposed to be the guide, and we get into this whole big conversation. But what if we flipped it to where you honestly felt you have the PhD in your womanhood? You knew enough. What if I lived in a world where I stopped hearing, when I tell people about something that seems so simple to me at this point, but I forget sometimes, right? I forget sometimes that there are people walking around, there are women walking around right now, and if you're one of them, this is my point, who have no idea that their vagina is not the labia. Okay? That they don't know that there's different, they don't know about exactly what happens. They didn't even realize. I mean, I gotta tell you, until I, who loved biology all through school, was a dancer, moved my body, was really interested in the science classes I took, became an athletic trainer, became a doctor, a physical therapist, who then went on to get into yoga and yogic life coaching and health coaching, and went on to, transitional doctorate in physical therapy when the profession went up. For me to have such little awareness of the fact that, all the hormones. I mean, I never even thought, wow, insulin. Insulin is a hormone. Duh. For some reason, it felt more like a neurotransmitter kind of conversation. I didn't think it was a neurotransmitter, but and actually with some research is kind of acting like that. And to not really understand cortisol. The only time I was told about cortisol, I think I was talking about adrenaline, and I think I kind of made it through till, I don't know, 2005 or no, 2010-ish, 9-ish, till I started really understanding about like even regarding cortisol. Didn't even come into the vernacular. And yet, this is where there's such a big balance between brain and your gut and your hormones and all of this. It's absolutely insane to me how little our health classes teach health and well-being, and how much they focus on illnesses and addiction. Not that we don't have to know about those things, but my point is, look, nobody's taught me about, nobody really, said to me, if I see my arm is ripped open, nobody's actually, like, I haven't read a bunch of threads on the experience of having your arm oozing with blood and your arm being ripped open and what that looks like and what I should feel and what's going on in my tissues as that happens and what that looks like at the cellular level and how somebody rehabs that and how they stitch it up. And I have not read a bunch of these articles, yet I know. Okay, I have vicariously through other people's experiences, through things to shows, through other pains I've had. I know that if my arm is ripped open and I can see my inside anatomy, I should go to the hospital. But I'm not necessarily focusing on that. How do I know to take action, immediate action, and that's not right? That's somehow threatening to me. Yes, I'll feel pain. But I might go into automatic. I might not. My polyvagal reflex might tell me to kind of cut that off for some reason because I'm overwhelmed and I'm in automatic mode. The reason I know is because I know what the healthy use of my arm feels like. I know what it feels like when I move my hands and my wrist and my skin pulls in a way that is intact and there's no oozing of tissues and everything seems like it's staying in the veins. And I know what intact veins feel like and look like and arteries and things like that. That's my point, guys. Nobody taught me that. They just sort of like when I bled at some point, like that, it was the reaction other people had to me. And then I incorporated it. This is how you learn everything. But if people don't show you or expose you to things, then you have only the choice of if I come across it, I can experience it, right? But the chances of you coming across looking between your legs up through the vaginal opening and understanding what's going is very rare. There's a lot of other people that will do that. Your gynecologist, everyone who helps you have a baby, maybe your lovers. Your kids had a first front row view coming out, but it's not unlikely. I mean, I've shown plenty of 60-year-olds that have had that history. 5 kids, 3 lovers, 4 lovers, and because back in the day they didn't have 56 lovers before they got married, and I'm the first one showing them mirror and explaining to them that this is your labia, this is your vagina, these are your organs inside, these are muscles between that, because the only person that's ever showed them anything was a uterus and ovaries, and there's no muscles in those pictures of how to get your menstrual cycle coming the first time in puberty class in 5th grade. If you're allowed to take it, by the way. That kills me. That kills me if you're in the population where you don't sign the paper for your child to learn about their body, nor do you teach the child about their body, and all of a sudden they just get their period out of not even knowing anything, and then you give them and throw them a pad or a tampon. You're not giving them a tampon because you mistakenly believe that changes their virginity. So this is the conversation. So, where are we now? Why are we not feeling like the doctor of womanhood? Why do we own? It would be like, look, who do you feel knows your house more than you? Are you a woman who has a man as your partner and you say, well, my husband knows my house more than me? Have you handed that over? I had to look at that. When my marriage blew up, I realized I did that. As much as I talk and own about my body and have learned, I forgot to include that in my home. I kind of just let things sort of be, his thing. And then when the house is ill, I won't know about it because I don't know what that looks like happening because I didn't pay attention. I may know I need help, but then how do I know if that person's charging me a fair deal, right? So this is the same thing we need to do with our human body, guys. This is what we need to do with our human body. So I'm going to leave you with that question, okay? Who is the doctor of your womanhood? I'm going to ask you to email me, info@bellyguru.com, and let me know. I want to know who's the doctor of your womanhood. I want to know from anyone who might be somewhat triggered by anything I've said, why. I want to know who you've given empowerment and agency to over your body more than you, and why. And I'm not blaming, I'm not saying this is bad. I'm saying there's a problem that this happens. Because that sounds like childhood, right? That sounds a lot like childhood, where we don't have control over what's going on. We can't make decisions. We're not put in the conversation to have a decision. That's even worse, right? That's even worse, where we're supposed to be in a adult-to-adult conversation, and there's things they're not even telling us, yet they're making a judgment about what's best for us. Yeah. Kind of makes you think, right? All right, guys. So I'm going to leave you with that thought process. I'd love for you to own your health and answer some of those questions, and maybe either under one of my posts for this episode, give me your 2 cents, or send me a little email. Let me hear your story. I'd be honored. I want to learn. And one of the reasons why I do this podcast is so that I can learn. I'm a perpetual student of the universe, and I want you to be one too. Because when both of us are learning, that means we're open to change.
Thank you for listening into this episode of Owning Her Health with Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. To learn more about her personal and professional development service, visit her online at drlisahollandpt.com.